is Crystal, and I'm back with another layout for Hip Kit Club. Today I am using a sketch, and this is actually my sketch. So I created this sketch for this week's challenge, and I am creating a layout based on it. So I debated for a long time what I wanted to do, and I had originally put circles in the sketch, but I was really inspired by this paper from Horizon. It's paper number 3. Let me grab the other one so you can see what it looks like complete. So this is the paper. It's absolutely gorgeous, of course, and it took me a long time to be able to cut into it just because it's so beautiful as is, and I didn't want to ruin it. But I had used a little chunk of it for a layout that I already created. So I decided to just go ahead and dive in, and I used a punch. This is a Fisker's hexagon punch to just punch out some little hexies in all of the rainbow colors on this paper. And I went ahead and did that because it really took me forever. And you can see this is what's left. I had to really destroy the paper to get the punch to get into all of these little nooks and crannies to do this rainbow order of hexagons. So I've kept these because I still have plans for even the tiny bits that are left of this paper. I don't want to waste any of it. But this is what I'm going to use as the circles. So I'm just going to layer them down across the page diagonally and create something similar to the sketch that way. So I have a sheet of white cardstock. This is just white textured cardstock. That's going to be my base. So I am going to clean up this mess and put you on fast forward and get started. So I have my white background, and I'm just going to start laying down all of these hexagons and trying to get them into a formation that I like. I know from the sketch that I want them all to go in a diagonal from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. So I'm working in that direction, but I'm not really sure how I want to space them and how I want them all to be laid out. So I'm just kind of putting them down, and then I will play around with this quite a bit. I have pretty wide kind of margins between them right now, white space between them, but I'm going to end up scooting them much closer together before I'm done. I can already tell I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to have to scoot things up a little bit. So I kind of start scooching things in a little bit closer to each other, but that's not going to be enough. And I don't make you watch this entire thing. I did want you to see kind of how I went about getting these in the right place, but I do step away from the camera and get them lined up exactly how I want them. And I add just a tiny bit of tape runner to the back of each one because I know that I'm going to stitch around them. So I didn't want to glue them down completely and gum up any needle I use. So I just add a tiny little bit of tape runner to the center of the back of each of them once I have them where I like them. And that is what I ended up with. I ended up having 2 kind of blank spots, and I didn't have any more paper to punch. So I went to the 2x2 little paper pack and found 2 almost solid, just, kind of solid patterns, I guess, kind of ombre patterned little 2x2 squares that worked exactly what I needed to fill in the blank spaces on the layout. So I actually went away for several days and stitched around each of those little hexagons using some coordinating embroidery thread. I punched holes first, and then basically just of an evening while I was watching TV, stitched a few here and there for almost a week. It took me to get that done. It was a labor of love, but I really love how it turned out, so I'm happy I did it. Now I'm just playing around with some of the papers in the kit, trying to figure out what I want to add behind my photo. I know I want several layers behind my photo. I'm just not sure exactly how I want to make it work. I don't want to disrupt the rainbow flow of the page, so I'm trying to figure out what will work. The photo is going to sit kind of over the red and orange and yellow, so I was trying to find papers that would work in those colors, but then I realized why don't I just use this other paper number 3 and back it with the portion that matches that part of the rainbow on my page. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some white cardstock behind my photo first. That just gives Gives it a little white border, a little separation. It makes it look a little less busy, gives your eye some place to rest between the photo and that rainbow paper behind it. And then I'm going to glue it straight down to this paper, just making sure I get it in exactly the spot I want it to be in so that those colors line up the way I want them to. Trying to keep everything on this page in that rainbow order, which proves to be a little bit of a headache later on, but I make it work. So just trimmed that out, and that is my photo ready to go. I'm trying to work out exactly where I want it on the page. I know the sketch says to put it about right where I had it, but I was worried that there wouldn't be space for my title then, so I was moving it around to see if I liked it better in another spot, but really this is the best spot for it, and that is going to be where I end up sticking it down eventually. But it does need more layers, of course, always more layers, right? So I thought I would try the Pocket Life kit to see if there were any cards in that kit that I could use behind my photo, and I really like this Note to Self one. It's one of my favorite ones from the kit, and I've been hoarding it a little bit. I haven't used it yet, so I thought maybe it could work as a layer behind my photo, but then I found this rainbow card, and I thought that was just too perfect. How could I not use that? So I'm trying to work out how I want it. The sketch has something poking out above and below the photo layers. It doesn't go around the sides, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to situate it behind my photo, and I actually cut it so that I don't waste any of it. That gives me a little piece of it to play with later on, and just make it stick out above and below the photo a little bit. And then I decided to try and add another layer by punching this card. So I went to my stash and found a punch that would work. I thought maybe the tab punch would work, but it was too small, and so I used this label punch instead, and I thought maybe I would use that around my photo, but it doesn't end up making it onto the page. So I definitely want to add some foam behind my photo. It needs something to make it stand out from this super busy background. So by adding a bit of foam, it brings it up off the page, gives it a little bit of a shadow, and just makes it stand out a bit. So now I'm going to work on my title. I originally thought maybe I would want to use some of these little words from the Horizon cardstock stickers, but it just didn't look right to me. They were in the right order. They were in rainbow order, but I just didn't like the way that the stickers looked on that white background, and they just looked too small. So I went to my March kit and pulled out these stickers. These are from Sunny Days. They were in the March main kit, and this is going to let me really create the title that I wanted on this page, which is Yo Momma, which is kind of an inside joke between my mom and I. It's something that I guess I've called her, or she signs things from Yo Momma ever since I think I was about 10 years old. So it's kind of a long story, but I thought this was a great title for this photo, which is obviously of me and her. We are at the Whatever Craft House in Kansas. That's the house that Meg Dirksen runs. We rented the house for a family get together, a sister's craft weekend. It was a lot of fun, and I haven't scrapbooked that trip much. I keep thinking I'm going to make a mini album of the trip, and I never find the time to do it. So I wanted to get this photo at least on a page, so I could at least have this one bit scrapbooked. We're sitting on the rainbow staircase, which is why this rainbow page just seemed like the perfect thing to use this picture for. So in the sketch, there's all of the little sprinkles around the cascade of circles down the diagonal of the page. And I knew that I wanted to use this little heart punch and just punch some hearts from all of these tiny little scraps that I have left over from cutting out the hexagons from this rainbow starburst paper. So I'm just going through trying to find pieces that are big enough for me to be able to punch a heart from, and then I'm arranging them on the page in the same rainbow order. So I want everything to be in that rainbow order. I'm going to embellish in that same color scheme down the page. So just finding all of these tiny scraps. I really didn't want to have to cut into that other sheet of paper. I used it to back my photo with, but the rest of it is pretty much intact still, and I don't want to have to sacrifice it to punch hearts. So I'm trying to find pieces of these scraps that will work for this this part of the layout. So I've moved forward a little bit in time and didn't make you watch all of that, but I have all of the hearts punched out now, and I'm going to start gluing them down. So for some of them, I'm just using some liquid adhesive to stick it down onto the page, and I'm leaving some of them, and I'll come back and add some foam circles to add a little bit more dimension to the page and make some of them just kind of pop up a little bit and make it so that everything's not quite so flat on the page, which if you played along with my National Scrapbook Day challenge, then you know how much I love adding texture and dimension to my pages. So that's what I did here. And these are pretty dimensional foam dots. They're pretty thick, so they stick out from the page quite a bit and create a really nice shadow behind them. You may have also noticed that I have that little note to self card that I punched out in the bottom of my page. On the sketch, there's a little cluster towards the bottom of the page, right where I have that sitting, and I was thinking I would use this there since it lines up with the red on the page, but I do end up changing my mind again, and it doesn't make it onto the page at all, but I do end up finding something else that works down in that cluster. But for now, it's going to sit there for a little while I am thinking about it. So still gluing down all of these little hearts. The bottle I'm using is a fine line bottle. That is something that comes empty, and you can fill it with whatever adhesive you want. I fill it with Scotch brand tacky adhesive, and that works really well in this bottle, and it's just a way of getting a very tiny little bit of glue onto a tiny little embellishment. I'll use it later on to glue down my title as well. So you may have noticed I added a little hexagon right there where I'm pointing now, because the orange was completely covered up behind my photo, and I felt like it definitely needed an orange hex on the page. So I had another little one that I had punched out that didn't make it onto the page. It was just a partial one, and I decided to add it to the side of my photo, and I'll go away and stitch around that one here in just a minute. But first, I'm playing around with that cluster at the bottom of the page that I mentioned before. I add a little tab shape that was punched from one of the cards in the Pocket Life kit, and then I added that note to self label as well, but again, I'll end up peeling that up here in a bit. So I'm ready to adhere my photo down. I've stitched around that hexagon, that little orange one, just so it matches the rest of them, and I can finally add my photo. So I used some double-sided tape to do that, and that's because my tape runner does not like to work on this foam, so the easiest way for me to stick it down is to use some double-sided tape. And now I need to finish embellishing. So I have those hearts, but that is definitely not enough. I definitely want something more on this page. So I play around quite a bit. I thought I could find some stickers and die cuts that were in the same colors as the hexagons, and would just start kind of sprinkling them around the page. And I do find a few. I find a few that work. I add some heart stickers and some phrase stickers as well. But you can see I tried one of the little, what is it, a dragonfly, I guess. I tried one of those, but it just didn't look right. It looked out of place to me, so I ended up taking that back off. And I'm gonna look through the rest of the embellishments that came in the kits. I have all of them out here in front of me, including the die cut pack. So I flipped through it and thought about adding some more things around my photo. I thought maybe I could add some of them on top of the hexagons, but I just can't make any of it work. It just doesn't feel right to me. So I struggle a bit to try and embellish the rest of this layout. I tried some of the stickers from the Dear Lizzie sticker sheet that came in the kit. Here's where I tried the the exclusive puffy stickers that were in the kit this month, and mine are almost gone. I love these so much. I've had so much fun using them, and I have just a few left. I'm using all of the hearts that are left on this sticker sheet to fill in around the hearts that I punched, and then I do find a couple phrases. So there's the orange one. I think it says "Just Us." I add that right above my title. And there is another pink one. I can't quite remember what that one said, but it worked perfectly over the top of the pink hexagons. And there's a yellow one that I do the same thing with. Just add it. I think that one says "Seriously," maybe. Add it over the top of the hexagon where it matches. And then I'm going to add a few of these Chamel Sparkle City enamel shapes. So a lot of them didn't quite match what I have on my page. The blue, I didn't have any of that teal color, so I didn't add any of those, but I did add some of the purple and red and pink stars just around the little clusters that I've already created here. And then I think this is where I pick up this is where I tear off that little cluster at the bottom. I just didn't like the way it was looking, so I took it all off, and then I'm going to search through the pile of things I have here in a second and find something else to use in that spot. But before I do, I thought maybe I could make a couple of the chipboard embellishments work, but again, it just didn't look right. They looked out of place, like they just stood out too much. And then I do find a couple, I think I do, maybe I don't. I think I use a couple of the hearts from the sticker sheet. There are a few left on here. Maybe I do that in a little bit, but I was looking for, I knew I had a strip of the branding strip from that pink paisley paper. There it is. I was looking through my pile. I have quite a mess on my desk right now. I'm usually a bit more tidy than this, but it was starting to drive me a little crazy too, but oh well, so it goes. So I just cut a little piece of that branding strip in the red, orange, yellow colors, and it's kind of lined up with those colors on my page. There wasn't any pink on that branding strip, so I couldn't use that. I had to go with the red, orange, yellow, and I think it works out just fine. I do add a sticker behind it that says "Our Paradise," and another puffy sticker on top of it that says something "Just Us," something "This Is Us," I believe. And then I cut that branding strip into a banner shape, so it made a little bit more sense there, and that's going to be my bottom cluster. I realized at this point that I had designed myself out of a spot for journaling, so I thought maybe I could make a pocket out of my photo cluster, but it was well stuck down, so that was not going to happen. I'll probably end up just writing a few lines of journaling on the back of this layout. It's not a big deal. I will tell this story in other places, and the photo definitely doesn't have anything to do with the title, so it doesn't bother me too much that I wasn't able to add journaling. So to fill in all of the gaps around these embellishment clusters that I've created, I decided to do some doodling. So I grabbed a black gel pen, and I'm just making some hearts and some dots and other little shapes just to fill it in, and that also brings out some more black. So there's black in my title, and now there's black. They kind of almost work like splatters, but they're much smaller than any splatter I could make work, and of course I didn't have to worry about getting it all over the hexagons either. And then once I had those in place, it felt like it definitely needed a border around the outside of the page. So I just grabbed a bigger black pen, and I'm just making a really messy doodly border around the edge just to give the page some definition around the edges. So that is going to do it for this layout. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this process, and Please do play along with the sketch challenge. Head over to our Facebook group to get all the details on that. And thank you so much for watching. There's lots of close-up photos coming up, so you can see all of the detail on this page. If you did enjoy this video, I do appreciate a thumbs up. That lets me know that you like what I'm doing and that I should do more of it. And if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all back here very soon.